everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. And we are so honored to have Dr. Umstead to join our webinar today. And we'll be talking about music. Dr. Umstead, would you like to start?
Absolutely. So just as a quick word of introduction, my name is Randy Umstead. I am Associate Dean for Academic Affairs in the School of Music, and I'm delighted to meet all of you. And I'm going to talk briefly about the school and then try to save as much time as possible for questions. I have a history of doing these events, so I sometimes can anticipate what some of the questions are. So if I don't get one from you that I expected, I'll go ahead and answer it anyway, because it might come to you later. Those are the things that come to you at 1 in the morning when you wake up in the middle of the night. But go ahead and advance, and I'll just tell you about a few of my favorite things about being at Baylor real quickly. Why I love teaching at Baylor, and this is my 15th year at Baylor. I have really come to love our students across all of those generations. They're really, really smart, they're inquisitive, and you can find students like that at every university. But we also find that they're just really good people too. I can think of all sorts of examples, but a really quick one was, we've had to make a whole bunch of upgrades to facilities because of the COVID era. And I was running around installing, I think about 120, I had some help, but about 120 HEPA air cleaners in various School of Music facilities this year. And every time I would get to a space, if there were students there, they would drop whatever they were doing and say, how can we help you set those things up? And by the time I had reached about my 60th HEPA unit, I was really thrilled when I would get that sort of assistance, and I never had to ask for it. What's my area of research? I am actually a singer by trade. So 3/4 of my time, I'm an administrator, but the other quarter of my time, I am still a voice teacher and a singer. What do I love most about living in Waco? It's honestly how I've seen Waco change over the 15 years I've been in Waco. It has grown, and there are so many more things to do now than there were when I started. It is like a completely different town in terms of things that you can do for entertainment or for dining and for cultural events, but it hasn't lost any of the qualities that it had before as a small town. Everything is still 15 minutes away. And as somebody who grew up in a much larger city, I was used to everything being 45 minutes away, and it didn't matter whether that was 10 miles or 5 miles or 20 miles. And then my recommendation for a local restaurant or tourist spot. So for local restaurant, I would have a bunch that I would recommend, but I'll start with one named Moroso. That's an Italian restaurant that's relatively new in town, but it has great wood-fired Neapolitan style pizza, all sorts of great Italian food. The menu is constantly changing, and it's home cooking, and it's fantastic. So I'll go ahead and move on. Just to tell you a little bit about the School of Music and its mission statement, it looks like something that was written by academics because it's long. So I'll try to summarize it. The idea is we're trying to prepare our students for careers in music, but also to be leaders in the musical world, be they music educators, be they church musicians, or be they performers. And we're trying to help them integrate all of those parts of their lives while they cherish all of the things that got us here, but also they're learning about new music and new forms of music, different music from different cultures, so that they can share that more broadly with the world. Moving on, just to describe our School of Music, this is the 25,000-foot view. And you can go ahead to the next slide. We've got about 375 students. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less, but that balance is critical from my perspective. It's overwhelmingly undergraduate. We only have one doctoral program, and that's in church music. And so we are a large music school that still is undergraduate focused, and that's not terribly common. Most music schools of our size have robust master's and doctoral programs. We have a robust master's program, but what we don't have is a program that's like 50-50 grad students in undergrad or 60-40 grad students in undergrad, because we really think it's important to give undergraduate students significant opportunities. So in my discipline, if you go see one of our opera performances, you're going to see half or more of the students, typically more, are undergraduate students. And where I went to grad school, you wouldn't have seen that. Where I went to grad school, we put on 5 or 6 operas per season. And if you saw undergraduates, they were either in the chorus or in parts that really, really needed somebody that looked young, like they were playing the part of a child. And I would often wonder, well, what's going to happen when these undergraduates graduate from here? When you go from Baylor on to grad school somewhere else, you will have a lot more on your resume because of the opportunities that you had to perform. So we're large enough to be comprehensive, do the things that larger schools do, but be undergraduate focused. And we can go ahead and move on. The other thing is we're comprehensive. At a lot of smaller schools, what you'll run into if they're undergraduate focused, you'll see that your music theory or music history classes are taught by people who also teach other things. So your trumpet professor might teach music history. For us, we're comprehensive in that musicologists teach the music history courses, music educators teach the music education courses, voice teachers teach the voice courses, and we're able to then provide a comprehensive background for all of those things. And then we'll get into this a little bit more later, but the performance experiences we get are of the highest quality. And you can see examples of that on your own out there on the internet, but we'll talk about some of them more. And then we really try to work hard to enhance the cultural life of the community. And one thing that has been nice about all the disruptions of the COVID era is it has taken us out of some of our normal patterns of performance. And so one of the things that we know is that performing outside is significantly safer than performing inside. So we have found about 14 or 15 different places on campus where we've had all sorts of pop-up concerts, chamber ensembles. Our early music ensemble has done several outside performances, our percussion ensemble has, and we do them during the day. And I have received notes from people all over campus thanking us for doing that because work in this era is kind of stressful for a lot of people, and having that brought to them rather than having to seek it out has really been a bright spot in their day. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. Let me explain a little bit more about our undergraduate degrees. So we have the Bachelor of Music, which the bulk of those students are performance majors. That's what you do if you want to either pursue a career teaching at the collegiate level or performing. That's the degree most students take. And then there's church music that prepares people for all sorts of things, but largely it's for working in churches. Composition, that's self-explanatory. Piano pedagogy is for people who love playing the piano, but they really want to focus on becoming a piano teacher post-graduation. Bachelor of Music Education, that's an instrumental or choral music, and Bachelor of Arts, which really belongs to the College of Arts and Sciences. The difference between that and the Bachelor of Music degree is that the Bachelor of Music degree is considered by our accreditor as a professional degree. It's preparing you for those professions. Bachelor of Arts degree is a liberal arts degree. So there's a little bit less music and a little bit more of everything else in that degree. And that's preparing people for a more broad array of potential possibilities. It's easier to double major in that degree. It's easier to take on additional minors in that degree. So it's a slightly more broad base for people. One thing I'll highlight that's really, really important from our perspective is at a lot of institutions, music education majors and performance majors are treated very differently. And that can play out in a variety of ways. One is, who do you study your instrument with? I know of some large state schools where if you're a music ed major, you're going to maybe study with a graduate teaching assistant for your first year or two before you move into a studio. And a lot of performance opportunities are reserved for performance majors. At Baylor, that's not how it works. We expect a high level of performance from our music education majors and our performance majors. And often in the studio, we forget which is which. There's some minor differences in terms of how many recitals and what type of repertoire. So we do have to look it up and remind ourselves. But if you went to a performance, like if you went to go see the Baylor Symphony Orchestra perform, among those undergraduates, you're going to see an equal number of music education and performance majors, and that's by design. That reflects our values. So the next option that we have for students that don't want to major in music is a secondary major. We have that available. The short version would be in everything we offer except for voice. And that is a 36-hour program that gives you a lot of the performance experiences of the music major without some of the academic requirements. So it involves taking lessons on violin or piano or whatever your major instrument is. You take that every semester, just like a major does. You're in their studios. You play in an ensemble every semester. You are involved in chamber music for the same number of semesters as a performance major. You do a degree recital, but you only do one semester of music history and a little bit of music theory. I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 semesters, as opposed to the much broader sequence of theory and history that our majors go through and some of the upper level music courses that they take. So a lot of people that do this are people who They really want to be a biology major and they want to be pre-med, but they still want to play their instrument at a high level and they want to continue doing that into their life. That's the thing for them. The secondary major may be the best path for them. There's an audition required for the secondary major, just like there is for the major. And the standard for performance is the same, whether you're a performance major or a performance secondary major. But for people who don't want to do that, we'll move on to the next option, which is the academic minor, which is 20 to 21 hours, depending on the minor. There are two different minors at Baylor. One is an academic minor, the other is a church music minor. But in both cases, they're more weighted towards music theory and music history. And then you get a little bit of freedom of choice. You can do some participation in ensembles that count towards the minor. But that is more academically focused. So that's someone who really doesn't want to go into music as a career. They maybe don't even want to have it as a major part of their life. They do want to have it be part of their education and part of their life, but not with the significant performance experiences and practice demands that are required of the secondary major. So we'll go ahead and go on. We'll talk about some of the performance opportunities that I referenced earlier. Excuse me. You can see we have a significant number of ensembles. We have 7 choirs, 2 orchestras, 3 different jazz groups. We don't have more than 4 bands at any one time because marching band is fall only and concert band is spring only. But the wind ensemble is our top ensemble. Our symphonic band is our second tier band, but they're still selected regularly to perform on national conferences. They're really a same quality level as a lot of universities' top bands are. Then the courtside players play along with our sporting events. And concert band is spring only. It's sort of an offset marching band, and it's filled with a lot of non-majors as marching band is. Then Baylor Jazz and Concert Jazz are our top 2 jazz ensembles. Jazz combos are smaller jazz ensembles that do a lot of performing at Baylor events or they gig in the community. Then our choirs, I could spend forever running down these. If you've got questions, it would be easier for me to probably answer specific questions, but we have all sorts of choirs for whatever your interest level is. Baylor Symphony Orchestra is largely majors. Campus Orchestra is largely non-music majors. And then we have Baylor Opera Theater. We have a handbell choir, early music ensemble, and then chamber music within the instrumental area, small trios and quartets. That's a key part of their degree plan. We'll go ahead and move on. Performing opportunities, we have tons of those on the solo level, but one I want to highlight that's really special to us is Semper Pro Musica, which there's a solo music, a chamber music, and an organ competition that we do every 2 years. And students audition within their own area with about 10 to 15 minutes worth of music. They're then selected to be finalists from all of the different areas of the school. We then bring in outside judges and we pick 90 minutes of music out of those. And those winners we take to New York and they get to perform a recital debut at Carnegie Hall. We've done that for 2 or 3 times. It's a relatively new thing for us, and it has been an experience of lifetime for students. All right, moving on, guest artists. We also, because of our location in Waco, we do a lot to bring in guest artists to us so that our students don't always have to travel to see them elsewhere. These are prominent artists. If they're from your discipline, you recognize some of these names. You've got a premier choral ensemble, one of the world's leading tenors, pianists, organists, trumpeters, and cellists for the DAS groups. And then the Lyceum series, the thing that we do there is we actually bring in artists specifically to come teach our students. So it's not just that they get to see them perform, but they get to work with them as well. All right, so then the next slide is just my contact information. Even though we're going to have time for questions now, something may strike you later. Feel free to contact me and ask. That phone number is for our music admissions coordinator. That's also her email address, music_admit@baylor.edu. She's a great resource as well. Her name is Mary Sage. And then you can find tons and tons of information on our website. I will find things that I didn't know on our website from time to time. So that's a great place to poke around. And with that, I'm happy to take some questions.
Thank you, Dr. Umstead. I believe we have a few questions in the.
All right, so the first one, yeah. What music-related activities are there for students not pursuing a music major but still interested? Okay, we have non-majors in nearly every one of those ensembles that was on that ensemble slide. Probably the fewest in wind ensemble, but there are several in symphonic band, tons in concert band, tons in marching band. All of our choirs have non-majors in them. So yeah, there's tons open for music majors. We do those auditions typically in the summer. Sometimes we do, depending on the ensemble, sometimes they're in August in welcome week right before the semester starts. We obviously can't wait that long to do marching band because they have to have already learned their first show by then, but there's tons available. We really, really value our non-music majors. All right, can you be in an ensemble without being a music major or minor? Yes, just answer that one. What kind of differences are there in the Bachelor of Arts versus the Bachelor of Music? Okay, I could give a really detailed answer that we don't have time for. I'll give a simple one instead. So if you take your average degree at Baylor, which is 124 credit hours, and this math isn't going to totally square, but if you're doing a Bachelor of Music, you're going to have 90 of those hours be music, and the other 34 are going to be general studies courses. If you're doing the BA, their general studies core is going to be 50 hours, and you're going to have fewer music courses. So some of the upper level, you don't have to take all of the music history courses, you take some of them, for instance. There's slightly fewer performance requirements. So it's easier to fit minors in with the BA or secondary majors with the BA than it is with the Bachelor of Music. Is there a music composition minor? No, you can take some composition within the music minor, but by being a minor, it's inherently not that specific because you can only become that specific if you put more and more hours in there and you get closer to the 30 or 50. Our auditions in person or through recording video. Our auditions for this year are over, although I think we are still accepting some applications late. Those are all done via video this year. Our goal for next year is to return to in-person auditions. And that's for being a major. If we're talking about ensembles, those are going to be done over the summer through orientation and through advisement, and information will go out about that to all the deposited students. All right, what kinds of classes and degrees are geared towards music, media, or technology in the modern commercial industry? Okay, so our courses, we have a required music technology course for all music education majors, and it's available for all of our other music majors. It's not specifically geared towards the modern commercial industry, although a lot of the software and tools that you work on in that class are applicable in both industries. Is there a music production technology degree? No, there is not one of those at Baylor. There's course, and then for a lot of composition majors go off in that direction because they can tailor their composition pursuits in different areas. So there's one of our composition teachers does a lot with electronic music and would really get into that territory, but it's not a degree in that specifically. What do you have to offer for students interested in composition? We have composition major. Do your music theory classes only cover Western music theory? Do they move beyond the 12-chord model? That would require a fairly lengthy answer that would be better answered by one of our theory teachers. The short answer is that it primarily covers Western music, but we do integrate a decent amount of jazz theory into that as well. And in fact, one of our theory teachers, actually two of them, are really fantastic jazz musicians, and they try to bring in more of those pop stylings when they can in some of the upper level courses. What is the acceptance rate into the music school? Okay, that is a difficult question to answer because it varies on a couple different things. One, it varies by discipline, but it also varies on year. So because what we try to do is have the right number, whatever that is, for each instrument in the school. So if a large class graduates, then we'll probably accept more people in that year. If a small class in that instrument, say clarinet, graduates, we'll accept fewer people. So standard acceptance rate metrics, like you might see about a university at large, don't really communicate to you what you want them to communicate. So on average, between 2/3 and 75% of applicants to the music school are accepted to the music school, which is a separate question than from the university. But that varies significantly based on instrument. All right. How many opportunities are there for music? Okay, I will try to hit all these quickly, and I apologize for the speed. How many opportunities are there for music ed majors to do student conducting? Tons. Not only do they have, I think, 3 different conducting courses available to them, and then 2 semesters of choral methods, They often serve as assistant conductors in the choirs, and that's the area where I have the most knowledge. So there are tons, right? How many opportunities are there for composition majors or minors to submit their music for performance by a Baylor ensemble? There are several of those. In fact, in some years, we even have competitions where specific compositions are selected for performance by the ensembles. And then we also have students do a lot of work with other students. And we try to facilitate that as often as possible. So for example, I had a student several years ago who on her senior recital premiered the work of a student colleague on her degree recital. And we try to facilitate that whenever we can. Okay, I know of someone who wasn't, can you bring that one back? I'm sorry, I lost it. But it was something about someone who wasn't accepted into the School of Music because they weren't accepted into the all-state choir. That's not accurate. That's not how it works. So that may be what they perceived, but as someone who sits in all the voice auditions, whether or not you were accepted into an all-state choir has nothing to do with whether or not we accept you. All right. What are your performing spaces within the community like? Okay. So I don't know if you mean in the campus or in the city. On campus, we have a 1,000-seat concert hall named as Jones Concert Hall. We have a 400-seat recital hall, Roxy Grove Hall. We have a 100-seat hall called Recital Hall 2. I don't know why it has such a sad sounding name. But information about all those spaces are available on our website. Jones Hall's gorgeous. Are music credits from other colleges taken in high school transferable? Yes, but I will offer some significant caveats. They have to be deemed by me actually as equivalent to the Baylor course that it's similar. And there's a process that goes through. So if you have questions about it, I would recommend that you contact me directly. At what point will we be able to talk with a counselor about finalizing our major? Majors often get finalized during orientation in the summer, but if you're a music major, that gets finalized before then. That's through communication with Mary Sage in our office. We send out letters that say, here are the majors you were accepted to, and then we give you an opportunity to select it at that point. When is the audition window for 2022 to 23? Okay, this is going to rely on me to do math, so I'll generalize it. We start auditions typically in December through the subsequent February. So this year, for example, we started well, this would be a bad example, but because we did things virtually this year, but we would have had an audition day in December of 2020, and then several in January, and maybe 1 or 2 in February, and those would be for the 2021-22 school year. So you could replicate that for every year. In your vocal performance program, what is the rough breakdown of voice types in terms of numbers? We have about 100 voice majors. I'd say we probably have 30 to 35 sopranos, and then you could divide out the mezzos, tenors, and basses evenly from there. What string instruments are common among people taking a music minor? I candidly have no idea. Anyone who wants to can sign up for a music minor. There isn't an audition, and they don't have to declare an instrument, so there's no way for us to tell. Are trial lessons possible before auditioning? Yes, the best thing for you to do is contact the teacher you're interested in studying with directly. Marching band questions. How many people are in the band? Roughly 300. When are auditions held? Over the summer, in June. If you make it, when do you start practice the summer before fall football games? I suggest you contact Isaiah Odajima, who's the director, but I think they start 2 or 3 weeks prior to welcome week. So I think they start in August. How can high school students best prepare for college music auditions? I would say get an applied teacher, get a private lessons teacher, and prepare the repertoire that we ask for. A general rule I would offer in my discipline, which is voice, I wouldn't want to speak for other disciplines, is sometimes people want to prepare really challenging repertoire because they think it will be impressive. Sometimes what it does instead is show weaknesses because they're still a young singer. So sing what you can sing really, really well. We'd rather hear a simple song sung beautifully than a complicated song sung okay. Which 2 professors are the, sorry, you got to interrupt me.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Professor Umstead. Thank you so much for your time. Sorry, we are close to the time, and the next session will be starting soon. And
Sure.
Thank you for all the questions.
Yeah, and if you have additional questions, just shoot me an email. I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, thank you so much. You'll have a great weekend.
Thank you all.